All right, what is up, everybody? We are back with another edition of Everyday Hoops. Hope you guys are having a good one. Today, we're going to be talking about Mike Brown. The Kings let go of Mike Brown yesterday after 2.5 seasons with the team. And we'll talk about the situation, the Sacramento Kings, and all of it surrounding this situation here in today's video. Thank you guys for the views on the videos and the shorts recently. I really appreciate it. If you do like the content around here, consider subscribing, liking, turn notifications, do all stuff like that. I'd really appreciate it. It really upset a lot. It's my Twitter, all that stuff down in the description below. And yeah, don't waste any more of your time. Let's get right into it. So yesterday, it was reported by Shams First and a lot of other people, the Kings let go of Mike Brown after 2.5, I guess, full seasons with the Sacramento Kings. He was the coach that brought him back to the playoffs, ending the long playoff streak. Was a 40-plus win team, 45-plus win team the first 2 years. Sacramento now at 13 and 18, multiple games under 500 on a 5-game losing streak. The Kings decide to let Mike Brown go in a very interesting decision. Yeah, just kind of came out, kind of caught off guard in a sense of not that he was fired. You did get the feeling that he probably was going to get let go, but I thought this probably was going to be an end of the season move. I thought they had much more respect for Mike Brown, that they're going to let him go this full season out, and then maybe in the off season things get crazy, or even near the end of the season. But in December, we're not even in 2025 yet. We're not even in January yet. We're about what 30 games into the season, and they just let him go like that. Interesting, and especially the way they did it. Multiple reports came out after talking about the way they did it, how he ran a full team practice, spoke to the media, and was going to board the flight to LA for the Kings' next game, and they let him go right there. And even Michael Malone, the Nuggets coach, adding even more context to it, saying that he was in his car driving to board the flight when he got the call. They didn't even get to him in person. They called him on the phone and told him he was going to get fired. Just wow. Very crazy stuff from Sacramento Kings organization. But then again, it also is the Sacramento Kings. So what do you expect, really? But more about Mike Brown. I mean, the guy that he changed the culture in Sacramento, he helped change this culture. Like, first year he came in, they were a 48 win team when he came in. They haven't won 48 games since 2005. 2005 was the last time they won that many games. And he came in, they won 48 games. They made the playoffs for the first time in 17 years. Literally the first time since my watching basketball that the Kings were actually a good team. You know, like the first time since my watching basketball, they were a good team. The last year they won 46 games, still a solid record. 46-36 is still very good for them, especially. Missed out on the playoffs, had a lot of injuries. And I was like, all right, but they bring in DeMar DeRozan, maybe they could still be decent the next year. And this year has not been great for the Kings. I made a whole video about them of like 2 weeks ago, I want to say, so you can go back and watch that video where I'm talked more in depth about the entire Kings. But then the last couple of games they've been losing. They're 6-13. They have one of the worst clutch records in the NBA, which is one of the things I thought was going to be a strength for them. Has been their biggest weakness, has been them being able to lose in the clutch, and that is on some of that is on coaching. Obviously, some of that is on coaching, but also some of that is on execution, on players, and all that stuff. Mike Brown, has he been perfect here this season? No. He definitely shares some of the blame, some of the rotations, some of the things they do. Definitely. He deserves some of it, but was being fired justified? I kind of really don't think so. For a multitude of reasons. I want to get into this 5-game losing streak though, which is what I guess inevitably caused the firing and the end of the Mike Brown era in Sacramento. If I can get to it, because for some reason my internet's acting really, really slow. I want to get to the 5-game losing streak. All right, so this 5-game losing streak. First one, they lose back and forth battle to the Nuggets after being down early. Came back, they took a lead, outscored Denver 47-34 in the second, 35-21 in the third. And in the fourth quarter, Jamal Murray hits some big shots, and DeMar DeRozan fumbles a pass for Domantas Sabonis that probably would have been the game-winning layup. He fumbles it, and that starts the lose streak. Then they lose to the Lakers back-to-back times, lose by 13 in one game, lose by 4 the next game. Then they get beat up by the Indiana Pacers, who have not been that good this season, at home. This 5-game losing streak all happened at home, by the way. lose to Denver on a DeMar DeRozan fumble. You lose back-to-back games to the Lakers. They get beat, not even just lose, you get beat by Indiana by 27 points. Where Indiana hasn't even been that good this season, obviously. And you get beat by Indiana. And that where DeMar DeRozan, a game where DeMar DeRozan goes 1 for 7 and has 2 points in that game. And then the last loss to Detroit was horrible. Had a 16-point lead, give it up, lose on a game-winning 4-point play by Jaden Ivey, which was bad play by De'Aaron Fox, fouling Jaden Ivey, and then, and that's what gets Mike Brown fired, is a 4-point play by Jaden Ivey, really. Mike Brown's had some interesting post-game interviews this season. The last one that he had as the Kings coach came in very animated, talking about leadership and all that stuff. He's been talking about that for a lot of the season. De'Aaron Fox's post-game interview was very, short, looked like he was very disappointed in himself and in the team. He had media. Mike Brown literally a couple minutes before getting fired was talking to the media, talking about this, right? A full team practice, a full media talking, going on in the car, going to board the flight to go to LA, and he gets fired right there, man. Just crazy. The Kings have not been great this year. 5 games under 500, 12th in the Western Conference. Things have not looked great for this team. There's a lot of problems, and Mike Brown, I guess, is the first to go. And was this the right move? Probably not. Not saying Mike Brown wasn't a problem or wasn't some of the problem. Obviously, he deserves some of the blame for this, but it's a scapegoat. It's kind of just a scapegoat. They've been so bad, they feel like they have to make a move, and the first thing that every NBA team goes to is we got to fire the head coach because they're got to be the problem, right? Doug Christie's going to come in, and this team is going to Doug Christie's going to change this team around. You know what I mean? Like, realistically, nothing's going to change with Mike Brown gone. It's not like all of a sudden this team's going to go on a 10-game winning streak, and now all of a sudden they're a top 6 team in the Western Conference again. Like, that's not going to happen. Doug Christie's not changing anything. Shout out to Doug Christie for getting an opportunity. He's been there for a very long time. But, this isn't going to change anything. It's not. The Kings have bigger problems than this. And for the Kings to let Mike Brown go in the way that they did, it's the Sacramento Kingsiest way. The Kings for the last, 20 years almost, have just been one of the poster childs for how not to run an organization, really. In terms of coaching decisions, in terms of draft picks, signings, incompetency. It's every time we talk about those things, the Sacramento Kings always get brought up. The Kings that's what the Kings have been for the past almost 20 years. They made some right moves here and there, drafting De'Aaron Fox, getting Sabonis, hiring Mike Brown. Those are some of the best decisions you made in the past 20 years. And now, just like that, in 2.5 seasons, boom. Now you look at the situation now, you're 5 games under 500. Your star player, De'Aaron Fox, is going to be a free agent after this season. And things aren't looking super great and sweet over there. This also leads to maybe more and more to the direction that maybe De'Aaron Fox might not be a Sacramento King for that much longer after this season. Your team is older now. You have no depth. Can you make any moves at the deadline? Sure, but is that going to change anything? Put you into a different tier in the Western Conference? I don't think so. There's been a lot of just bad with the Sacramento Kings this season, and it starts with Mike Brown being fired, which, shout out to Mike Brown. He deserves his flowers and his credit for bringing the Sacramento Kings team back to the playoffs and making this team an actual competent and fun team to actually watch. Like, people actually wanted to watch the Sacramento Kings play basketball. That hasn't happened since DeMarcus Cousins was around. And even then, we were only watching for DeMarcus Cousins. It wasn't like we were watching for him to win. We just wanted to see DeMarcus Cousins have big games. Like, he made this team watchable. He made this team fun. People actually cared about this team. They were the sweethearts of the NBA for a season. Where they were a top 3 seed. It was cool. But now we're in a sad reality where a rebuild is probably on the horizon. And I talked about it more in that Kings video I made a couple weeks ago. A rebuild is probably on the horizon. And the more and more I watch this team play, the more and more I think that's probably what the direction is going to have to be. Because, especially depending on what De'Aaron Fox does. If De'Aaron Fox isn't happy with the situation going on in Sacramento, then you might as well just fold all your cards and let's go try to get AJ Dimonista, or however you pronounce his name, in 2026. You know what I mean? Because without De'Aaron Fox, your team's not doing anything. A team led by Domantas Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox. I mean, sorry, Domantas Sabonis and DeMar DeRozan. Too many D names. Domantas and DeMar in 2025. It's not doing anything in the West. In the East, could be a playing team. In the Western Conference, I don't think so. They've missed the mark, man. They had that one good year, decided not really to make any big moves, which led up to having to make the DeMar DeRozan signing, which he hasn't been horrible, but it just hasn't been perfect with his team. Keegan Murray has not been great. They have no depth on this roster at all, really. Malik Monk has to be a starter now because of how bad this depth is. And it's just that they can't win in the clutch. They cannot get a stop when they need to get a stop. Offensively in the clutch, things have not been great, even though De'Aaron Fox has been the best fourth quarter player in the NBA this season. Just hasn't been able to work, you know? Yeah, so yeah, I feel for Mike Brown. It sucks that it has to end like this. He will get another opportunity somewhere, whether it's a head coach or as assistant coach. He's going to get another opportunity somewhere. And Sacramento is going down a dark path, man. It's going down a really dark path for the Kings. And the more and more they lose, the more and more stuff like this happens, the darker and darker this path is going to get for the Kings. And it just really sucks that, like, after the success they had the past year and 2 years, it's all boiling back down to the same old Kings that we know from the entire mid 2000s, 2010s. Like, it's going back. It's reverting back to this. And it really sucks that it has to go out like this. But I guess that's just a sad reality of what the Sacramento Kings are. Well, yeah, that's going to be it for today. Hope you guys enjoyed. Once again, if you enjoyed the content around here, consider subscribing, liking, turn notifications, do all stuff like that. I'd really appreciate it a whole lot. And yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow.